Day 12, Job chapter 33 and 34. Welcome. Today's whispers introduce us to a surprising voice. Elihu, a young man who had been silent while Job and his older friends argued. He watched them debate, accuse, defend, and explain what they believed God was doing. But in the end, none of them brought clarity. Elihu begins with a confession many of us can relate to. He says, "I thought age should speak. Advanced years should teach wisdom. But it is a person's spirit that helps them understand things. Almighty God has to put his breath into them." We live in a world where titles, positions, age, and status often determine whose voice is given priority. But Elihu reminds us that age does not equal wisdom. Experience does not always guarantee depth. And the loudest voice is not always the most accurate one. Wisdom comes from God, not from human achievements. Elihu continues with a bold declaration, "For if I were skilled in flattery, my Maker would soon take me away." In simple language, he is saying, I refuse to flatter people. I cannot pretend. I must speak truthfully. We often flatter people just to keep peace, win approval, or avoid discomfort. People may praise others publicly, but complain privately. We soften the truth because we fear losing relationships or opportunities. But the crucial lesson is that flattery is not kindness. Honesty is. Drop pretense. Drop performance. Drop the pressure to be accepted by everyone. When your words align with truth, your life aligns with purpose. In verse 21 of chapter 33, we read, "Their flesh wastes away to nothing, and their bones once hidden now stick out." Many see this as a physical description of suffering, but there is also a spiritual metaphor here. When a person loses connection with God, their life begins to waste away, not always physically, but emotionally, spiritually, morally. They lose confidence, peace, joy, clarity, and purpose. You see, when a person drifts far from God, life becomes dry, empty, and painful. The outward signs reflect an inward emptiness. If you feel spiritually drained, emotionally empty, or mentally tired, this is your sign to reconnect with God. Healing begins when intimacy returns. Strength begins when surrender happens. Restoration begins when we stop fighting God and start seeking Him again. Elihu doesn't stop at describing pain. In verse 25, he gives hope. "Let their flesh be renewed like a child's. Let them be restored as in the days of their youth." It means that God is not only the judge of wrong, He is the restorer of the broken. God can renew your energy, restore your joy, refresh your mind, rebuild your strength, rewrite your story. This is God saying, I can make you feel new again, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. The next whisper is where Elihu asks a striking question. Is there anyone like Job who drinks scorn like water? This is not a compliment. Elihu is pointing out something dangerous. Job had become so used to negativity and accusations that he absorbed them without resistance. We sometimes do the same. We drink in negative comments, we internalize insults, we replay hurtful words, we adopt other people's low opinions of us. Here Elihu is warning us, be careful what you allow into your heart. Not every criticism is truth. Not every insult deserves your attention. Our last whisper of verse 28, in the last chapter for today, Elihu ends with a reminder of God's justice. They caused the cry of the poor to come before him, so that he heard the cry of the needy. God sees injustice. God hears oppression. God responds to the cry of the weak. Even when society ignores the hurting, even when the world rewards the powerful, God keeps His eyes on the vulnerable. Compassion is not weakness. It is Christ-likeness. When you help the needy, you invite God's blessing into your own life. In summary, from the book of Job 32 to 34, we are reminded of the following. Wisdom comes from God, not age. Honesty is better than flattery. Distance from God leads to emptiness. Restoration is always possible. Negative words should not define you. God hears the cry of the oppressed. He is inviting you to walk in. Deeper wisdom, stronger truth, renewed strength, restored purpose, compassionate living. Because with God, you don't just enter a new year, you enter a new season.